just one of the laws made by the National Assembly. Therefore, because the standing orders, which is the legislative instrument that regulates, that governs, that delineates the lawmaking process in this country, clearly specifies that every parliament, every house must hold a public hearing. After the first reading, it goes to the second reading, and of course to the committee stage, where this is basically what we are doing now, that comes to public hearing. There will now be a report stage, where after this public hearing, these committees are supposed to go back to chambers in plenary and say, having held a hearing with stakeholders, these are our findings, these are our resolutions, these are our recommendations. It is based on that public hearing, it is based on what members of the public say, that now lead to what is called a third reading, which is the final passage of a bill before assent. So when public hearing is defective or done poorly, what that does is that it undercuts the very foundation of the legislative process. That is why we are saying that whether you are looking at it in terms of the Constitution or in terms of the standing orders of the Senate and the House of Representatives, we are supposed to have a public hearing properly so-called. But what is making us angry as civil society and those communities is that we have a situation where, as the members of the press are saying, this public hearing was held based on a set of regulations. In one breath, the chairman of the committee allowed the multinational companies, the government representatives, and those they categorize as critical stakeholders to speak to their memo. Otherwise, if this was just about commission of memo, we could have sat down in our various states and sent those recommendations. But to now ask me, for example, some of us came from Lagos, from Akwa Ibom, and all over the country, to come here and just go and say, I adopt what I have already submitted. It is an injustice. It shows the level of disregard that this parliament has for host communities, which is why my colleague made a point that when you look at what they claim are provisions for host communities, they are not really provisions for host communities. This bill looks like the hand of Esau and the voice of Jacob, because this is a bill that looks as if the oil companies sat down and drafted it. From the beginning to the end, every provision that relates to host community is entirely in favor of the so-called system. They determine the membership of the trust, they determine the membership of the advisory committee, they determine what projects to execute, they determine everything. So is this some sort of corporate social responsibility? So that is why we are, and to see the deception, the final point I want to make, the deception. This is supposed to be host community fund for host communities. I believe members of the media and all of us here are as baffled as Nigerians that we left this public hearing without an understanding, clarity on what these host communities are. Are we talking about cluster of villages where these settlers operate? Are we talking about wards? Are we talking about local governments? That question has not been resolved. So when you even say a fraction of operational cost, 2.5%, the question is, for example, Mobile operates essentially in Akwa Ibom, and you have one of our colleagues here from Ibno, an oil-bearing community. Are you saying that this 2.5% is 2.5% of the expenditure for that particular area of the entire country? You get the point? So this is a deception that the National Assembly needs to come out clear on. But this is why I am not surprised. The NNPC GMD made a point that I believe the media may have missed. He said he was the chairman of the technical committee that drafted this bill. If you are going to unbundle NNPC, if you want to subject NNPC to good governance practices, to the best international practice, if you are going to stop the corruption, that the cesspool of corruption that the NNPC has become, why should the NNPC be the same organ, the same institution that will draft this bill? And you now have the president sending this bill to them, and you want to convince us that the National Assembly, whose leadership has publicly pledged allegiance to the president and not to the country, will now take whatever they claim they have done at this public hearing seriously. So this is just a smokescreen. This is an attempt to deceive Nigerians that there was a public hearing. For all intent and purpose, this public hearing has totally defeated the purpose for which it was supposed to serve.
Coming into the community we are talking about, you notice that we don't have good roads, we don't have water, there's no lights. The people are enjoying here. But we are talking about our money. We are talking about what belongs to us. That is the only source that we have. And people are not doing anything about it. We heard about public hearing, and we're so happy about it that it is good that we come in here and express our feelings and tell them what they need to do, because a lot of people don't know what we are facing in that place. But they sit down here not to allow us to just come and air our view. It is not fair. You can't sit down here and decide something on people that you don't know about it. You have not. I believe that a lot of people that don't go to those communities to know what they are facing. And if it doesn't affect you today, it will affect your children tomorrow. We are suffering on. A lot of people are using nose masks today. Did you know the effect of that? People are crying over there. It doesn't affect you. The PIB is supposed to mention, please, all I'm saying is that there must be a structure in those communities. There must be a structure that everybody must be carried along. The host community must be carried along. In any structure you're doing, please make sure that, I believe that the committee must move a little bit further to those communities and know the need and meant it.